Pertama sekali izinkan saya menyampaikan paparan saya dalam bahasa English. BMTR, sebelum saya mulai, ada 3 anak perusahaannya di situ, three subsidiary businesses. Let me first give a quote. I think for those of you who've been around long enough, in 1990, there was a quote by Al Gore saying that we're building the information superhighway, which was the internet. And when I was having a discussion with Paharitano earlier on, a few weeks back, I said, what BMTR is doing is actually building the media and digital distribution superhighway in Indonesia. And that's what you're seeing in front of you. So these 3 entities that you see are entities that are involved in media creation, content creation, and the distribution of that content across various distribution channels. And also strategic partnerships with various companies, as mentioned by Pak Ruby earlier, and the presentations earlier. So you can see in front of us, we have MNCN, which is the advertising-based media business. We have MNC Digital, which is a subsidiary of MNCN, which is the content and digital business. And on the right, you have a subscription-based business called MBN or IPTV, which is the shareholders' ticker code on the IDX. Next. Okay, the structure inside MNCN, which is has got 2 parts. The first part on the left is the free-to-air business, where you've got household names like RCTI, MNC TV, GTV, and iNews. And on the right is the newly structured or integrated digital and content businesses called MNC Digital, where we focus in content and IP. There's a business unit focused on talent and label. There's a unit focused on social media and gaming. And a 4th one where we have integrated all of our digital platforms and portals. If you look at the total production of all of these entities in terms of content, we have about 300,000 hours of content library. We produce about 20,000 hours annually, and the digital rights are kept with the digital entity, which is MNC Digital. The non-digital rights are held by the free-to-air entity. And together, next, we distribute those contents into various platforms as well, which we'll talk about later. Just to showcase the performance from the free-to-air, I think we are still the market leading in terms of audience share. I already mentioned the content size. Revenue contributions largely come from primetime TV, almost 60%. Ad types, so regular ads still contribute the majority of revenue, but the 22% that you see from non-regular ads, which are overlays and various other forms of ads that don't take up time, increasingly becoming monetization opportunities for us with product placement and different tool sets that we have. And by program, the regular program still contributes almost 80% of our revenue. So very healthy numbers, very healthy margins as well, which you'll see later from the financial reporting. What I'd like to highlight is the ad spend. So if you look at the total ad spend in Indonesia, the group is basically taking about 50% of total Indonesian ad spend, which is fantastic in the free-to-air market. And obviously the challenge going forward, which I'll talk about, is how do we transform that ad spend into digital revenue as well, which has been doing very well for us as a group. Next. The 3rd entity, which is MBN, this is basically a collection of our satellite, broadband, and cable, local operator businesses, our ICT infrastructure business, where we're building data centers, and we're also connecting the remote audiences of Indonesia through VSAT, which is a satellite service to distribute content to them, and an investment into Migo, which is, I think, as mentioned before, it is a collection of warungs across the nation with servers there that you can access content without ads, cheap, fast, and continue consuming our ads without having to subscribe to any one of our platforms or without having to have permanent connectivity as well. So for those of you who are not very familiar, largely most of the internet traffic or most of telco traffic tends to be video. So we are a large video-based business. So we want to make sure that video comes to the user or the audience as cheap as possible. That's our primary interest. Our second interest is, of course, to run those information highways or distribution channels. Next. If you look at subscriber numbers for our subscription business, very strong, almost doubling from Q1 2020 to Q1 2022. Obviously, the growth is, as you can see, it's healthy growth, but it's not this way, right? It's not a hockey stick growth. And that's basically the nature of subscription services almost globally. growth is always at a trajectory this way as opposed to that way, largely driven by the penetration of the internet. So it depends on how internet penetrates the home, depends on, on various other dynamics like social demographics, GDP, etc. We still think there's a large opportunity for K-Vision because Indonesia is a large collection of islands, so 17,560 islands, I think, if I remember correctly. Then the cheapest way to get, or the fastest way to get to these audiences is through prepaid satellite. And that still remains a strong growth trajectory for us in terms of the subscription business. Obviously, cabling will take longer because, you need to cable the cities, you need to dig, you need to connect. It's expensive, it takes time, it's capex intensive as well, as Bahari mentioned earlier. So those will also grow, but at a slightly slower rate going forward. Next. Okay, the opportunity in Indonesia is largely, I'll summarize what's on these slides. Largely what the slides are showing, and these are from third-party research houses, is that about 9 hours of, users are spending about 9 hours consuming various forms of content on the internet. And what's happening there is a shift. Now, everybody talks about the shift of people are not watching TV. That's a little bit of a misnomer. People are not watching TV in front of the TV. They are watching TV on digital devices. So that's where, any analysts over here, anyone writing articles, you should go into the details. So they're still watching TV, they're just watching TV on their devices. And they're consuming the same TV content in different platforms. And that's the key message that we'd like to highlight over here. As a group, we obviously are video, we are into video, we are into audio, we are into entertainment in various forms, we're into gaming, we're into articles, and I'll talk about those going forward as well. Why do we do this? Because from that 9 hours of audience time, we want to take a larger pie of that consumption time so that we can monetize it either using ads or subscriptions. Next. The statistics that you see in front, for example, industri periklanan is the advertising industry. It is growing at a single-digit growth rate, and we basically dominate the TV side of that, as I mentioned previously. What I'd like to highlight to you is the top right corner, which is how the shift of ad spend from TV is slowly moving towards digital, and how we are well positioned. In fact, we are already taking a large proportion of that market share, but we're well positioned to perhaps dominate on the digital side as well. If you look at the direct watch numbers and the video revenue numbers in terms of ads, they're still at a high growth trajectory. So there's still a lot of opportunity left over the next 3 to 5 years in Indonesia. Next. Okay, MNC Digital, which is the key digital entity now with all the content, assets, and talents of the business. What I'd like to highlight here is effectively it's the raw materials of the group. So how do you produce content? You need actors, you need script, you need IP, and you need the production capabilities and the infrastructure to do it. And in a collection, that's what we have. So we have the artists, we have the scripts, we have the storytellers. We can bring them together at a cost-effective rate. We can then produce something at a high quality. We're investing in improving that quality, and we can bring it to the audience on various platforms. Platforms that we own, and also platforms that we don't own, like YouTube, Facebook, TikTok. These are third-party platforms, and we also put our content on those platforms. They are strategic partners of ours. We monetize partially, but we also then try and bring the audience from their platform back onto our platforms. And that's largely what's being summarized on these slides over here. Next. In terms of content, so as I said, a phenomenal number of content. We produce 67,000 articles per month. We have uploads of about 500 to 700 on social media. The library side I've mentioned before, but what I'd like to highlight to you is the 5 categories that we dominate, which is drama, animation, reality shows, infotainment. And we're increasingly producing originals for our OTT platforms in order to grow the OTT platforms. And of course, films as well. As the cinemas open up, as the pandemic slowly comes out of where it has been for the last 2 years, then there should be more demand for cinema films as well. But it's currently, those 2 blocks are still investment and growth opportunities for us. Next. And how do we distribute? I think I've mentioned this already. We have the free-to-air network, still the cheapest network to reach an audience in Indonesia. Then we have the satellite networks, which is subscription-based and also prepaid and postpaid. We have apps, websites, portals. We have the social media assets that we work with. And we have Migo, which is our online to offline last mile distribution solution. Next. Okay, I mentioned a bit about IP and why it's so important, because if you don't own the stories, or if you don't own the scripts, or if you don't own the way you write those scripts, then it's very difficult for us to move forward. Now, if you look at the business, a lot of global players entering Indonesia, whether it's the Netflixes of the world or the Disneys of the world, they're all going after local content. And how do you create local content? You need artists, you need scripts, you need the IP behind it. And that's something that we hold, and it's a main strength of pillar for the group. Lots of examples in front. For example, Ikatan Cinta, Kiko, Bima, these are all household names. We use these IPs and we allow other brands to license them for their marketing and their promotional activities in the market. Once again, apart from our content, we also have celebrities and characters as well that we own in terms of IP. Next. Okay, just a summary about our two digital platforms that are effectively the crown jewels of the business today. RCTI Plus, which is our advertising-based OTT app, OTT super app, I should call it. Why is it a super app? Because it's not just video. You can also consume news, you can consume information, you have audios, you have music, you can download music. You have Treble as well, which is a partnership and an investment that we've made, which allows you to download music for free and consume it. So effectively, I call it a media infotainment superhighway because we've got more than one type of media in it. It's an all-in-one super app now. And if you look at the numbers, so RCTI Plus, even though it's pretty young, it's less than 2.5 years old, we've already got about 65 million MAUs in June 2022. And this shows that there's a lot of appetite for the content that we're putting out there. And now the challenge is to convert that into further monetization or deeper monetization. On the bottom of the slide, you'll see Vision Plus. Similar to RCTI Plus, it's also started its life as a video OTT app, but it's subscription-based, so you pay a monthly 7-day or monthly or 90 days or 180 days, 360 days subscription, so it's subscription-based. What you get is a slightly premium offering. You get much more channels in there, so it's not just the 4 free-to-air channels. You get about 120 linear channels. A lot of them are higher-end or pay TV channels that have come onto the OTT platform. About 18,000 hours of exclusive content. And all our originals are also geared towards pushing Vision Plus forward. We want to make it the Netflix of not just Indonesia, but largely Southeast Asia. So as Pahari mentioned, we have ambitions to go beyond Indonesia as well, using some of these platforms that we have. Beside video, Vision Plus also has games, so you can play, say, casual games for free. And we also have some user-generated content. And I think, because of the pandemic, one of the innovations that have come out of the group was to allow the users at home or anybody anywhere in Indonesia to actually audition and come onto our ecosystem by auditioning remotely. And that's one of the features that you'll also see in ClackLink as we roll it out in the near future. Next. Okay, to just show some growth trajectories for RCTI, as I mentioned before. So if the audience is not in front of the TV, where is the audience going? The audience is going towards apps like RCTI Plus, which means the revenue is also following. And that's the trajectory over the next 5 years, which you see from, I think, the MPA. It's a third-party independent organization. And they are positive, and very, I would say, almost bullish on the opportunity for RCTI Plus to gain that share of revenue from the TV side onto the digital side. Next. How do we distribute our apps? How do we move all of these apps? How do we move this content to the user? So there's 4 different ways. One is our own network of DTH and pay TV and internet broadband subscribers. So there's about 11 million of them. This is within our own group. So it just makes total sense for us to upsell our apps and our content to them. Number 2 is strategic collaborations with companies like IndiHome. They have 9 million subscribers, but only 30% use video services. So we can penetrate their audiences or their consumers deeper with our video services. Migo, I've mentioned before, effectively cheap, no ads, covers the areas in the peripheries of the large 8 cities across Indonesia and all the remote islands. And of course, nobody can run a digital business today without partnerships with the telcos. So we have major partnerships with each one of these telcos, either zero rating or some sort of bundling or some sort of exclusive content propositions with them. Next. Okay, I mentioned again the raw materials of the business. How do we do this? We have artists under management. We have 400 over plus artists. We also manage YouTube's multi-channel network. We've got the license to actually help upcoming artists or existing artists that don't know how to use YouTube, how to monetize. We manage them, we get a service fee. It's a small part of revenue, but what it does bring to us is the learning and the ability and the branding of our brands with those artists across the YouTube platform, which is obviously global. And most of these artists remain with us for 5 plus 5 years, so largely 10 years. Social media contribution is phenomenal, so we're largely 3 to 4% of YouTube traffic in the nation, and our strategies to monetize with YouTube are good. Facebook is good, and TikTok, as they start monetizing with businesses, then we're also looking at monetizing our traffic on TikTok. Our 7 portals, so 6 of them I think are pretty much household names. You've got OKZone, Sindo News, iNews, IDX, Celebrities, and Sports ID. And the new one, which is Buddyku, which we launched last December, which is a kind of a two-way portal now, because the other 6 are more one-way where you're consuming something, but Buddyku is actually where you can also contribute. So not only do you get artificial intelligence-based, personalized, curated information from all of our portals, but you also get it from third-party portals where we curate this content. Plus, you get individuals anywhere in Indonesia who can contribute articles. If the articles find their way into the portal, will allow them to monetize as well and give them a small revenue share. So that's another version of our innovation into the media or the portal business or the information communication business as well. Next. A new business line for us is Esports Star Indonesia. It's a separate business, a separate entity which we have set up, largely focused at now growing our experience from being a esports production and broadcasting company into a esports publisher or a games publishing business, plus esports talent management as well. So the 400 artists I mentioned in the last slide, I think over the next few years, I will also start showcasing esports teams and esports players as part of our talent as well. And there'll be some connectivity there because a lot of sports talents are also applicable in, they might want to be movie stars or they might want to be actors, we don't know. But we're also recruiting sports talents now. So you'll see some growth in that over the next few years. As mentioned before, we are also launching our games. So you should be looking forward to 2 games being launched. I think we mentioned Fight of Legends first, and then Rapid Fire. So these are professional games. These are not casual games. We expect people to take part in competitions. We expect there to be prize money. We expect people to have a career path as well, not just into our games, of course, but into the whole world of gaming. And I think I've mentioned this before. The last prize money for game was almost $1 million US now on global platforms. So professional gaming is a career path. It's also an opportunity for the younger gamers in the Indonesian ecosystem, of which I think we're one of the largest in the world in terms of the gaming number of gamers per capita. Next. Okay, lastly, Movie Land. So as I mentioned before, with all of these raw ingredients that we have, the actors, the scripts, the IP, the capabilities to produce content, one of the hurdles is real estate. And what do I mean by real estate? If we want to shoot a scene in Menteng, if you want to shoot a scene in Tamrin, or if you want to shoot a scene in a lake somewhere, there's a lot of licensing, there's a lot of policing, there's a lot of crowd control that we need to do. So one of the natural transitions for a media business as big as us, if you look at the Disneys of the world, if you look at Ramoji, if you look at Elstree in the UK, Harry Potter, it's always good when you have real estate that you can control, because that allows you to control your costs and also control the time it takes to produce. And by building Movie Land over 21 hectares, I think the first phase of 4 hectares is already done. We have also included the ability to do pre-production, production, and post-production in one site. This would largely be used for us, for our own production, but we'll also look at encouraging the whole content creator industry in Indonesia, third parties to come on board as the site matures and as we mature in how we schedule and run our own creative programs and production in these sites. So look forward to this. I think by Q3, it would be ready for visits as well. So I think we'll probably organize something where we can show the sites as well. Next. Okay, let me pass on to Ruby or Fadel. Ruby, cover the finances.
Ya, sorry. Baik, kami lanjutkan dengan kinerja keuangan tahun 2022, yaitu untuk kuartal 1 2022. Kinerja Perseroan untuk kuartal 1 tahun 2022 adalah sebagai berikut. Total pendapatan bersih naik 4% menjadi 3,4 triliun dibanding 3,28 triliun di periode kuartal 1 2021. Kemudian laba kotor atau gross profit naik 7% menjadi 1,69 triliun. Margin laba kotor tahun 2022 adalah 50%. Kemudian EBITDA juga naik 3% menjadi 1,39 triliun. Margin EBITDA juga sebesar 41% untuk kuartal 1 2022. Laba bersih naik 60% menjadi 634 miliar dibanding 397 miliar di kuartal 1 di tahun 2021. Begitu demikian kami sampaikan kinerja kuartal 1 Perseroan untuk tahun 2022. Terima kasih.